Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage channel here on YouTube. And I am finally ready, I think I am, to demonstrate the White Model 510. This is a machine that a client brought to me and asked me to go through it. They had never seen it. They thought it was interesting, and I think it's interesting. It's a bit of a curious oddity, and I say oddity not so much because of it's kind of well, it has a number of things that are kind of interesting, I should say. One thing to note, of course, is that if you the client noticed that the pressure bar was very loose. It barely had any tension at all on it. You know, when you would raise or lower the the pressure foot, it's like, it's just really loose. And when I first looked at it, I thought, oh my gosh, maybe the spring is broken. And I thought, well, that's not good because what if I can't get a spring? Well, as it turns out, that's not the case. And there's a diagram here, and then the owner's manual will reveal this to you as well. When you set your pressure bar, you set it with a series of levers, of all things. Okay, so this bar here was all the way up, and I didn't know what it was because I've never seen one like this. And you press it in once, and then you can and then press it in again. There are two settings. You know, there's I guess regular and extra heavy pressure, and you adjust that pressure depending on how delicate or heavy your fabrics are. And I won't go into that. That's covered in your manual. And many of you who know who are sewers already know in terms of maybe that's a good topic for a future video is how do you know how to set the pressure bar, because it's not something we often talk about. Nonetheless, if you decide that you need to really loosen the pressure bar, well, you're going to press right here. There's a lever, you press in and you'll hear it. You'll hear it release. So if that has been a mystery to you, your pressure bar should not be broken. It's just waiting for you to know how to adjust it. Thankfully, that was something I was pleased to hear. And of course, my feed dog lowering mechanism is working beautifully. It just needed some oiling. It wasn't actually as frozen as some can be, but just assume, honestly, 95% of the machines I've ever worked on in 12 years, over 10 years on this channel, they almost always have frozen or stuck feed dog adjustments. That's when I say feed dog adjustments, I'm talking about the device that's designed to raise or lower the feed dogs, because they're almost never used. You know, they just sit there. Anyway, so that is taken care of, and we have movement. We have movement for all of our dials. We've got this one here for this, of course, is stitch width, and then we have the inner knob here for this is for needle position. I have an M is for middle, and then we have right and or left. And there are symbols here for buttonhole making. This is our reverse lever, and it works beautifully. And then, of course, we have stitch length. And so that is essentially and then, oh, by the way, of course, we do have, as I think I mentioned in an earlier video, they had moved the tension dial over here. And we're in the 70s, right? This is around 1977. So a lot of the front-mounted dials are gone. Now, there are exceptions. You may say, well, I've got a machine that does. And again, that can happen, right? It's not an absolute statement. All right. So this machine has a little convenient measurement piece there. That's nice. Of course, it also has something. And I've talked about this, and this is something I think is the reason that the owner purchased it, is because it has this wing-like setup to open up the sewing deck. Right now it's set up as a flat sewing surface, and of course it has a bobbin case down here below. The bobbin case is not a class 15 like I thought it was. It's a different class bobbin. I'll have to investigate what they're called. In any case, when I move this lever in, then this should shut back. The rear one does the same, and you have a free arm. So it's pretty, in terms of going from freearm to flatbed and back again, it's actually very simple. You don't have too much to wrestle with, and that's a pretty cool thing. Now I showed when I was cleaning this that there's actually an elaborate spring-loaded mechanism made of steel that's designed for this to work. So what I normally do is you hit the flap and that one opens, and you hit this one, and then there's this lever that I was mentioning, and when you pull the lever out, it actually locks, and you now have a nice, reliable flatbed. Pretty clever, and I've not seen this before. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to plug it in, and yes, just like the 70s Kenmores, when you plug this machine in, you'll notice the light comes on. You don't have a separate light switch. It doesn't ask you if you want it. If you're gonna sew with this machine, you're getting the light on whether you want it or not, and that's just how it is. Don't know why those changes were made. I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with cost or not. Who knows? In any case, we are going to go through some tests. I've been doing some test stitching, and now I think, fingers crossed, that it will give us, it will provide us with some stitches that will allow the owner to come and retrieve it. So we will see. Let's see here. I'm going to get my different thread tails in the right spot. All right. So I am going to, let's lift that all the way up. And give me just a moment, guys. As I'm setting up here, I'm gonna lower the camera, and then we'll zoom in a bit so you can get a little bit. I have some nice, beautiful daylight here, and I always prefer to have that when I'm trying to show a machine, especially when we're going to show it running. Okay, so I have 2 layers of, I don't know, sort of a light, maybe a medium weight cotton. Let's see here. And don't know that I need to start with my needle down, but we will for good measure. Oh, let's see. So I've got my setting on the longest stitch and straight stitch right now. This, all sewing machines have their own sound, signature, I guess. This one has sort of a growling sound, and it's. I have found nothing wrong with the machine. What I think we're listening to is this machine has a rubber timing belt, and I'm curious as to whether maybe that's the reason why it is making the sound it does, or it could be for some other reason. I was surprised that the White Company was still, at least on this machine, has used a 1.3 amp motor. They were lowering the amperage of the motors as time went on, so how about that? Okay, so now let's change our angle a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the stitch length a little, and we'll still go with our straight stitch. And you can see it does a reverse really well. Let's see here. Going to make one more row, and this time I'm going to go back to the longer stitch length. And let's see, we'll come back down once more. All right, and then when we're done, we'll come back and take a look. I made a slight adjustment to the tension here. I have it on about 5. I had it just like maybe 4.5, and Now I'm going to pull my needle up, got the pressure foot down, and I'm going to come over here and let's take a look our stitch width. We'll come over here and we'll go all the way over to 5, which will be our widest stitch, stitch width. We're still on long stitch length. Okay. All right, let's see how we get on here. And I could go faster, but whenever I'm doing something like I'm doing my zigzag after making an adjustment, I like to give the machine a slow pace to begin with, just to see what it's doing before I increase the speed at all. We'll come back this time a little faster. Okay. Let's see, there's one thing I'd like to show here. This machine doesn't say it on the, like you don't actually see it on the model or the name. You don't see a lot of advertising of it, but this machine does reverse or stretch stitches. They were sometimes called reverse stitches. And I've talked about these quite a bit on the 70s Kenmores. This machine did not give me any problem when I, was checking out. I had to lubricate. It was somewhat stiff, but I lubricated the dial. Now, this dial here, okay, has to do with what kind of stitches you're going to do. Where you see it set right now, you see this symbol and this symbol are straight and zigzag. That's where you want this. When you turn the dial, you're going to get a different kind of stitch, and let's see what we're going to pick here. Here's one. I think on the Kenmore it's called Pine Leaf. I'll show you what it looks like right here. So we'll try that one. And while I'm up here, just so you know, you might have wondered, what is this other dial? This dial has to do with the density of stitches for the buttonhole. So if you want the, if you want your buttonhole stitch to be very satin-like, you can control. I'm just amazed that they even allowed that, but sewers must have told them at some point, hey, we'd really like to be able to get some control there. So that's what they did. All right. So, but with the special stitch, there's really nothing else I believe I need to do. Now I still have this on the longest and the widest stitch. Remember, whenever you're doing, these are utility stitches. If I use the word decorative, I apologize, because these are really not decorative. They're considered utility stitches, I believe. I'd have to go back and see how White marketed them, but you'll see things like blind stitch and but again, these stretch stitches were popular, and you guys know if you've watched my other videos, this is especially true of late 60s and well into the 70s and 80s, obviously. But the 70s in particular, people in fashion, people start wearing a lot more knit fabrics, and being able to have a stretch stitch, what that means is the stitch is secure. It's not really in danger of coming out, but it builds in slack into the stitch so that when the fabric stretches, and if you know the difference between a knit and a woven fabric, knits stretch far more than, wovens barely stretch at all. Knits stretch a lot, and if you don't have stitches that can stretch with that fabric, they're going to pop, and then you have a disaster. So, all right, so let's take a look and see, and you'll watch how the fabric feeds. It's been a while since I've shown a reverse or stretch stitch before, and you'll see how it forms that stitch. So it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's how it works. That's And I'm sure the machine will go faster. I like to go at this pace because I'm asking the machine to do, quite frankly, for a mechanical device. You know, this is fancy gymnastics, and it's designed to do it, but you know, let's give it time to chew on this sandwich of fabric when it's doing something like this in particular. That's just my own approach. You can see I just sped it up there, and it didn't seem to complain, but that's just me. And it's not necessarily because this is a vintage machine, which it is. 1977 makes it vintage. All right, guys. Now, before we take the fabric out, let's do this. We're going to hop back up here, and we're going to reset the dial. Now, I've been turning this clockwise. I don't know if the dial will turn counterclockwise. The manual should show me that, but I don't want to. Oh, pull the needle up out of the needle plate. If you try to turn this and it doesn't want, and it wants to fight you, you've got to remember, as I just did, that your needle needs to be up, out of, above the needle plate. Okay? A lot of modern machines have computers that automate these things, but back in the day, the only intelligence was in the mind of the sewer. Okay, so we're going to come around here. You can see it'll have a click, right? Because it's spring loaded, but it turns fine, and this is where we want. So, and so with that, I'll just close the lid, and let's drop back down here. And the reason I'm doing this, I want to show you how simple it is to switch back, because, you know, and sometimes with sewing projects, you might need a stitch like the one I just displayed, but then you also might say, hey, you know, I got to go back to my straight stitch. How do I get back there? And it's pretty straightforward. All right, let's give it time to do what it needs to do. All right. Oh, I see. Haha. Well, why is it going side to side? Because it's on the widest stitch length. We're not in reverse stitch, and if you watch, I can now show you how it's doing it zigzag, and with the needle up, I'll get us back to just a straight stitch, no width at all, and there she goes. All right, now let's take a look at the stitches that it made. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think. Okay, we have lots of straight stitch. You can see the short and the long right up here on the top, and then you'll see my zigzag down below here. You see this is the stretch stitch, and on this side, this of course is the bobbin thread, or the bottom thread, and you can see those stitches on this side as well. So you know what? It's a pretty fancy machine, and the bobbin case was, when I got it, the bobbin case was extremely loose, and it took quite a few hours, and we're talking 4 to 5 hours of playing to get the tension balanced enough to create the stitches you see here. I've seen machines that I think maybe form better stitches, but maybe that's just me. If you have this machine and you love it and you think it's awesome, don't, feel proud to say so. And let me know what you think. Maybe you've never seen this machine. What do you think? What do you think of it? You know, I think it's got some clever innovations. It's one of the last Japanese-made domestic sewing machines of any brand. And anyway, I will be letting the client know it's time to come and pick up the machine. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video, whatever that happens to be. Take care, everyone.